25 Years of Vampire the Masquerade presents My Two Deputies.
Hey folks, welcome back. We're here back after a long hiatus, some big life changes for folks and some cast switching and a lot of stuff like that. We're going to get right to it because it's already a little late when we got going. Technical issues, pointing stuff out. Production is a production. So right off the bat, again, I of course, am Bob of 25 Years, and we have DJ.
Hello.
Brennan.
Hey, folks.
And Mike.
What's that?
All right. So what's going to happen is that we're kind of moving boldly forward, and we're making some executive decisions. We asked around about what happened, and apparently a cult game where that is fun and seems a good time. A lot of folks were interested in what that was and it was difficult to follow along for some people. And for others, it was like, it's not vampire. So there was immediate disinterest, and we have a big background that says what it's about, and we talk about it and do whatever. And there's also some talks about, like, we want to see more of that. You guys did that. It was a lot of fun. So here we are. The decision, though, is that we're doing a session 0 to decide, one, to showcase how we do, but also to give maybe an option for other people to do a ramp up for a vampire game, deciding, what to do. And the first thing we want to showcase is the big question. Who feels they want to storytell right now for vampire? I'm looking at the long stairs. We got,
DJ, you're raising your hand. Are you asking for permission, or are you saying you're doing it? Okay.
I'm making grand gestures.
Grand gestures. So, DJ, you want to throw your head in the arena for it, right? You ready for it?
I am ready for it.
Okay. So, at this point, you have the helm, but just so everyone to follow along, storytelling is probably not going to go that easy. What we're cutting out, and we're going to tell you when we cut things out to know what happens to keep it normal. We had about an hour and a half discussion between the four of us when we met up about some changes. We lost Bernogle and we lost Mr. Michelli, Mike, that were here. Both had things they need to take care of, big time life things that are their personal issues and choices. Perfectly fine. They're healthy. Nothing's wrong. Just they don't have time to be online right now. And may change later, but for right now, that's what it is. So that's that. The other thing, though, is that in that discussion, who wants to storytell? Who understands what it's going to be, what that takes, and what goes on? And it's very hard for me to give up the reins storytelling because it has nothing to do with ego. I'm going to point that out. It has to do with standard. I have certain standards if I'm going to be in a game with anybody. I have expectations, and I'll rifle through them. I mean, we talked about them, but these guys already know me. But I'll tell you what I was saying. Number one, passion. You got to be passionate about wanting to storytell. You can't just say, yeah, I guess I'll do it. You say, yeah, I guess I'll do it. I hear, waste your time. I'll figure it out until someone gets bored enough to run a game themselves. And that's a complete waste in time. And a lot of people are stuck there. They're still in those games, no matter what it is, where they have one person who just going through the motions and blah, blah, blah. And it makes a bad time. So passion's important. Second thing, what do they have in mind? Like, if you're going to storytell and you have that belief, give your pitch. Give your best one-on-one pitch about what you want to do and whatever. But then I also said, well, let me help you out a bit, something I wish my players would do. Before that ST opens their mouth, because you already admitted, DJ said it, I'll wear the ST hat. I think it's going to be fun. Okay, great. What do the players want to play? And that we haven't quite discussed fully. And so that's what we're going to do now. And so this is an important factor. And for this, remember, this is a collaborative effort. That's the technique we use. And that's the most important thing. Oh, I should probably ask. I didn't finish this out. In your storyteller selection, it does not have to be the most experienced person around the table. It does not have to be a person who isn't nervous about storytelling. I'm nervous about storytelling, believe it or not. I have issue storytelling sometimes where I get floored, or I don't remember a rule, or I'm real comfortable bending what I need to, but ultimately the narrative has to be there, and I got to make sure people are engaged. There are techniques I use that I pay attention to that I just can't train people to do, but I can advise them to look out for it. Because unless you're in the hot seat, as I call it, you don't have everyone's attention as you're going through a game. So it's kind of hard to dictate that when they're not experiencing it. So storytelling is something you have to do to experience that. To that, there's a level of understanding. I happen to come up hardcore. We all know that tale. I've said it enough. It's on the website. Check it out. But the number one way I hated it, and that is a catchphrase, by the way, trademark, the number one way. The way I did it, I just grabbed a group of people, sat down, and explained to them what it was. There's this game, and it's Vampire. Have you heard of D&D? And explain what role-playing was. That was the hardest part. But once done, I told them, you're immortal, Count Dracula style, and let's get at it. And then I had to help them fill out sheets, and the rest is history, as they say. But those games were, by my standard now, horrendous. They were horrendous. People had a lot of fun, some life-changing fun, but we were all beginners. But I didn't lose sight of one fact. Every storyteller knew, and not doing it enough, I don't care if they've been a player for decades. If you haven't been a storyteller, you're green new. You don't know what you're doing. And that's because it's a different world when you are the one who leads the entertainment for what's going to be presented. You share the space, but that's important too. So enough on that. The openness of being an ST means having to help that ST be fueled and stay amped to want to run a game. To do that, we have to collaborate. We all have to share our opinions here, which I'm about to do, and allow us to kind of see what's going on and what we want to do. And to that end, I'm going to give the reins over to you, DJ, and open it up for your discussion board. And do your thing, man. You want to ST a game? How do you want to go?
All right. So I guess to start off is to say Vampire seems to be our bread and butter. This is exactly what we're looking to play, and I feel also comfortable running the Vampire game because I know that all of us that usually have fun doing it. From my end, storytelling, the perspective of things, from your end, being able to play it. So then my question is, the first of questions, of course, is what types of settings would you like to play? Or where would you like to play?
I'll be a little bit of a naysayer to start out with. I don't want Chicago again, although I did enjoy that game. I want a different setting. New York's a hot one. We could go to LA. Any of those are big. I would prefer one of like the big like AAA cities, actually. Something that has like a lot of life and is somewhat iconic.
Any particular reason why? Or at least care to elaborate as like what draws you towards it?
It's all those cities, the AAA city like category in my mind is something that's like, it's one of those cities that never sleeps. There's always something going on at certain times of day. It's not like, Nashville where you go out and 2 a.m. there's only like, a dozen places to go. It's like it always, in my mind at least, has something always happening. And while that's not, vampire specific, it is like a flavor and setting thing that I like.
So I missed if you had a specific city that you threw up?
New York or LA were ones I threw out, but it's really just any kind of AAA. You know what I mean by that? AAA city.
I only know that you're grading cities by letters. That's what I know about that. So, and I'll leave it at that. Like AAA is okay. I get it. It's they're not the 4A cities you're looking for, but they'll do.
Right.
Okay. So I don't really have a specific city in mind. I know that I'm not against New York. I barely tapped into that book as a player, and as a storyteller, I, of course, ran it several times. I like that book. I love how it's built. I love the openness of it. I'm cool with that. L.A. I ran an L.A. Chronicle, but I will say that L.A. is I'm not against either. I wasn't a player there. Now, you may think that's weird, but I'm going to be honest with you. Me being a player is a different experience for me, and I'm actually kind of nervous about it. So to be in LA as a player, I don't know what I would do, meeting certain NPCs and being at certain places. It's a different thing, so I'm open to it. But consequently, if somehow we did something rural or even European, I'm cool with that too. That's not been done. Like I'll throw my hat in this. I always thought it'd be cool to do something in Barcelona.
Barcelona.
I've never researched Barcelona. I always heard this in like sports teams for some reason, especially around football, aka soccer, as Americans hear it. You'll hear it like in Barcelona. Here's that, or I'll watch a horror film and they'll have like a horror director from Barcelona, Spain. Give you a film so hardcore, we're smoking as we tell you about it. And it's like, oh, that's an interesting place. I'd like to know more. And I never, whatever reason, I never dove into it. But I'm cool with that.
Mike?
Okay, so if it's not obvious, right, I'm a city boy. I spent some time in the South, but I'm a city boy. And for me, I don't particularly care what city, but I think it's relevant why I prefer urban environments. I don't even care what country the city is in. But for me, being in a city that's so densely packed with people, it creates this sensation of the unknown, right? I can be living in an apartment building or a complex and, 20 feet away from where I lay my head at night, there could be a whole other world of, we'll call it a possibility just to be generic, taking place that I know nothing about just because there are so many interests that intersect in an urban environment. So definitely that. Also, it's easier for me to think about theme in terms of movies, right? I always rant. What movie is this? Do I want to be in that movie? Blah, blah, blah. And so I've had Den of Thieves on the mind, the one with the Ice Cube son, O'Shea Jackson, Gerard Butler, with Robin stuff. That was great. I also have recently seen 3,000 Years of Longing. It takes place in an entirely different kind of city and is about an entirely different kind of story, but it still gives me that satisfaction of being surrounded by a whole lot, most of which I can't possibly actually know until I go find out, is what I'm driving at here. So I guess that's the theme of exploration and a little seasoning for danger.
All right, so we'll get into the theme into just a second, and the reason why is because the setting is going to be important as to where we're going to start flavoring our theme. But so far, it seems like we have no Chicago because I think we've all explored it. So we are in a three-way tie, at the very least, between New York, Los Angeles, and Barcelona. So I guess at this point, if you gentlemen would like to let me know what tickles your flavor a little bit, or you know what, actually, this is a pretty good thing. Reason I say that is because we have these three cities here, but Mike actually got into it. Now that I think about it, Mike, I apologize in advance because you actually do give us a reason what might switch up our setting here, right? So let's talk about theme and type of game that you might want to play, right? And what do I mean by type? For our audience here, when we talk about types of games, most of the time the games that are introduced into to our players in general, or even when you're playing like Vampire the Masquerade, we're usually introduced from the perspective of like a neonate or like a young Ancilla. Right, but it's always within the city itself. But you never get to play other types of things, right? So I know at one point some folks may want to play in Social Court and want to be like part of the Harpy and the Talons, or they want to be part of the Primogen Council, or they may or may not want to be the sheriff and the deputies, Archons and Justicars, et cetera, right? What type of game would you guys like to play?
I think for me, I like Mike and Brennan, and I want to play something intertwined. I think the challenge of playing something together is always a better choice than being, three vampires from separate walks of land, and however that is, whether one of us is the master and two chilled, or a regnant, or even if it's a coterie, there's a deference. Like one plays a diversification of age is realistic. Mm-hmm. The question is as to what we're about. Kind of the fun idea is the Anarch Odd Couple type feel, if you remember that ancient show, but it's often mentioned for its trope that complete opposites are still friends in a group doing their thing. And I kind of always like the idea of a person who can't stop breaking the masquerade, like somebody who's completely inhumane and wild, but you're the guy who keeps picking up the tab and helping them clean up. And why you don't mind it is because there's a part of you that's entertained by the trouble we get into, but they need you because you're a sense of calm and stability that kind of keeps them around and not completely losing it for whatever reason. But nobody gets you to. So it's like what to do with that. But you can spread that as easy to three as you can keep it reduced to two. And that's one theme I have interest in. Another one is, and this is going to be hard for maybe some people to enjoy, I like the aspect that one of us is terrifying, completely terrifying. And whoever that is, we never know. It's like if a great white shark put on a suit and is walking around and keeps calling us fish or morsel, right? Or my tender friend. Don't worry, like referring to us in just off kilter, quirky things that make us like little niblets that they may eat at any given moment. But in reality, it's a term of endearment because they're so inhumane. That's really what they're doing. But when that person's not in scene, we're always talking about how to get away. Like they send us out to do stuff. It's like, we could just get out of here. And, there's commentary about that, or being in a situation where all three of us are the ones talking about how to get away from that which made us. That could be a great theme too. But what I'm getting at is that we do something that's more of a challenge than we have things, let's screw shit up, and the classic climb a hierarchy ladder.
Mm-hmm.
I'm more interested
I agree with that.
Being intertwined. Yeah.
I think when we're doing this, I don't want to play like a coder where we're trying to get away, because there's like, if we're playing a game together, I want us to like be working together, not trying to escape, because if we're going to follow that logic out, one of the avenues for escape might just be like staking you in the back when you're not looking, covering you in cement, or burning you or something. So I would rather I want conflict in the coterie. I don't want like throats ripped out conflict out the gate or close to the gate.
On something like that, you make an easy fix, right? The whole point is we're here to play together. We get that. But even if your goal is to escape, you always foil yourself out of game. Right? You make certain you never take that step that would get you away, because it's on you to role play. Well, what was the attachment in the first place that put you there?
Mm-hmm.
Nobody's innocent in a theme like that. And as inhumane as that person is, how did you attract that to you? Of all the people in the world, how did you get them? For as much as we hate to admit it, your sire or even the masters that you take, that you agree to be with, are underneath. You could always oppose them. You could always die swinging at them and doing whatever if you really are against them. But you doth protest too much. And that's an old quote, but it basically means there is something in you that wants that person there and needs that person there, even as they need you. And so the out-of-character solution is, if we agree to that theme, then we hold to that tenet. And so that's what keeps us in the same polarity.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. That's not me pushing the agenda. I tend to agree with you. If we think in terms of get away, and if it's three players, we're not technically really working together, so I do agree with that.
Mm-hmm.
But no matter how it goes, that's just a trick we could do for any other idea. Don't think that we can't play. Oh, no, we can't get away. Because that's kind of the point of not getting away. But the struggle is there. That is the point.
Right. It's the flavor. It's the flavor. Mike, I see you thinking real hard back there.
Well, yeah, I mean, so Bob gave me a couple of ideas, and I'm trying to decide whether or not they're related. You remember the scene in Watchmen where Rorschach goes to jail, and he has to tell the other prisoners, right, that they're trapped in here with him, not the other way around?
Mm-hmm.
I can't decide if that needs to be one of us or a local NPC, but that is a vibe that I'm feeling. Another vibe that I am feeling is something between like an escape room and like the Raid movie, where the game that we're playing has a built-in physical limitation. Related
An
to
escape room. That's a movie, The Escape Room?
No, it's
I don't
just
remember
like
it's called The Escape Room or just Escape Room.
Oh, maybe it is.
But there is a movie.
I've not seen either of these movies, Mike.
Listen,
I've seen The Raid.
You have an idea. And I know it kind of even goes against what I was saying about the joy, right, from the having to explore something urban where it's all tightly packed in. But what I'm getting at here is I find physical limitations, spatial challenges to be interesting, and I've seen that in two different types of movies: Escape Room and The Raid. Right, in The Raid, what they came there to do has a whole lot to do with that building.
So are you
wanna
wanting to
drop
be
that?
one of the ones that escaped, or like the coterie that basically set this up? Like
Doesn't matter.
we, as a coterie, we have like a hotel or some like large apartment block, and like that's our feeding grounds.
So hang on a second, because when I'm a little lost because where that's oddly specific, anything could fit in that, right?
Right.
We're talking about the confines of a hate. Like certainly, we're not going to unless you want the whole setting to be inside a building. That is that even doable? Like, what are we? Right? Like you.
It's not
put
not something
away.
I've ever pulled off before. But
I
it
feel like
could,
you're actually
it,
talking about Cube.
it could happen, is what I'm saying. And again, you inspired me. You reminded me of these films, so I had to, like, what if we did The Thing from the place? Because, there's the traditional...
You just gave me an idea for a game, though.
there's the traditional you meet in a tavern in D&D, right? What if the game prevented you from leaving the tavern and the whole game was in there?
Oh, I get what you're saying.
Yeah, but do one better, right? What if everybody was in prison, and that's where we're taking the glimpse from it of what's going on, and the prison, the power goes out. That's your first session.
I'm okay
It
with
goes out,
that.
people wondering what's going on. Some of you in solitary confinement, some of you work the yard, one of you's a guard, and you're a guard who cares. You've been dealing with a lifer for a long time, but he's a shot caller, and he's kind of trapped in confines, but you got to open him up so he could breathe because he's been telling you how much problem he is. And there's that drama of like how it works, and of course you're going to let him out to walk, but everyone's got to figure out what's going on. But at some point, whether it's session 2, session 3, maybe even session 1 off the bat, the screaming starts. You start hearing that something's going on, and eventually someone encounters a bloody mess. And it's like a mystery, but you can't get out. Like, that's one thing that's abundantly clear. This prison's on lockdown, and it's only going to last for... this story would only last for a night. But the goal would be to get out. I could see that working, and I'll run that game someday. But that's mine. That's mine. Thank you for helping me get there. That's a good one.
But you see what I'm saying, though, right? How the spatial
Right. I get what you're saying. So
is fertile.
For Brennan, I would say that if you haven't seen The Raid, the most modern equivalent is watching the movie Dread, where they just enter.
Okay, all right. I was actually thinking about that because,
right.
yeah, he's okay. I'm following now.
Right.
But
It doesn't
Burnstone wants
necessarily
to
have
raid.
Okay.
He wants to raid. It's his
Oh, is that
film.
the?
Trust me.
Oh, I think I know what you're talking about now. I just not seen it.
It's some very small action stars whooping a lot of ass in very confined spaces, making it work.
Just epic, world class beatdowns. Just that nobody deserves.
Okay, so are we wanting a game that's like high action, high violence? I'm fine with that.
It don't have to be. It could be.
I know it don't have to be, but like, what do you want it to be? Is my question. It doesn't have to be like high speed, low drag all the time. It could be higher than normal or whatever. You can say like small amount of violence, medium, large. That gives me enough. Like T-shirt sizes for me.
I can't really answer that question. I have a cane bro in my soul whose answers I don't trust. And
okay, so it's at minimum a medium.
So let me pick on Micah, but his cane bro addiction, which is well established. We get that. Can we put up there that we're looking for violence? Action has to be a part of it, but to me, it's vampire. It's there. It's just where are we going to encounter and what's going to go on. But Mike, you would like to see that as maybe for the first time a staple.
With one caveat: careless violence is lame. Mm-hmm. So if somebody has to die, what I mean is that if we're bothering to get into a combat, I need it to be someone who needs their ass whooped. I'm not interested in like making a mess of a room to make a point to some person who we haven't met on screen yet. You know what I mean?
So limited.
Like I just.
No, I get you. I'm with you on that point. Meaningful combat is what you're saying. That's the point. I'm right there with you. No problem. If that's good with DJ, can that happen?
That could definitely happen. I'm still trying to figure out, like, on top of that, what type of characters, like, what type of story do you want to tell? I mean, outside of the theme that where it seems like we're enclosed and we're like narrowing in to kind of get ourselves out, from what perspective would you like to see the story?
So at this point, at what perspective, I want to finish out on theme, because we haven't even said that. We've said places, we've said stuff, and we're kind of hodgepodging it together. It is a horror film, but a horror game, but you're going to get that with Vampire anyway. So I don't necessarily need it to be a focal point. I want to agree on a level of realism. That I'm going to say. What I mean by this, it's okay to say we're going to take a neonate focus of the game. I like that. I'll steal the idea from Requiem. And the fact is that we'll never encounter an elder or anybody above us. We're all the equivalent power level walking around, but that never has to be presented to us as that. We can always feel that there's something out there, but we may never encounter it, because sometimes it's enough for us to have to try to pay rent or to hide one body, or, you know, how do we deal with the police chasing us? Are we really pissed off the wrong gang? Seems they rolled deep. We got to deal with that and still live here because we got daylight to worry about, et cetera, et cetera. Those are all neonate themes, and that becomes where it's basically the reality is it's the human being dead and realizing they're a monster. And that reconciliation, that's one possibility. But I got to be honest, I've ran Newbieville so much and have been there so often that it's not about doing it in my sleep as much as it is. I think there's more relevance in how to play an experienced character or a transitioning character. And what I mean by that is that, okay, you now know you're a vampire, but what does that mean to night society? Right? That's great. You now get what you are, and you have to pretend to be human, but that's where I want the focal point to be. You know, that does take us knowing Elder A or how we would be introduced to the... I don't want the onus of being, storyteller, hand us the book so we know everybody and where they're located and where the buildings are that we go to meet them. As an ST, I vomit in my soul when it's players looking for the laundry list to click on so they can move their little character icon over there and watch the show resume. I'm the motherfucking show when I'm a player. I'll tell you what I have interest in and what I want to go see. But if I'm playing, like, I'll give you an example. If I'm playing a Gangrel and I'm stalking the night and I'm looking for blood and I'm in the Elder's territory, that's up to DJ to play that Elder to come get mad. Otherwise, I'm carving the fat back off of somebody to get my blood for the evening, and I'm discarding the remains where I feel. After all, I'm not staying here. And I'm out. And if they never come for me, that's on them, but Bob doesn't care. And I don't care if that was Prince Vitel's backyard. Was there a sign? No. Well, if he gonna come at it and he gonna come with it, then come with it. But if you ain't gonna pull the trigger to show this little Gangrel how you need to act in some Elder's domain, then I ask you a question. Whose domain really is it, bitch? If I came and did what I want and wiped my butt on your lawn and you ain't gonna come get me, big badass Elder, I guess it's mine. And I move on. And welcome to the predatory ranking where you just got lowered. That's where I'm at. That realistic aspect of you do something you didn't know, hopefully, what comes makes you up to it, but gives you a chance to work it off. But sometimes you do something that's too far. You know, it may be two of you get a chance to redeem yourself, but one of you's getting got. And that can happen. To me, I classify that as hard mode. As I tell everyone, because part of, for whatever reason, people's fantasy of being a monster is to have your hand held. You know, give me multiple choice options and tell me what the best choice is so I can always pick the right one so I can move. I'm not, you know, I don't want to get embarrassed. Man, screw that. If I'm a dumbass and I decide that same Gangrel is a hacker and I'm going to walk in because I got a computer of one and I'm now going to mess with this and I'm going to break open this piggy bank. I got this bank across the street. I'm going to try to hack it. And DJ's like, well, how? And I'm like, I'm going to open up this thing and I'm going to threaten a guy to put his computer thing here, whatever it is. You mean the hard drive? I don't know what you're talking about. I don't know. I'll bring him over and bash his head on the table and he going to learn how to hack that right over there across the street because that's me hacking. And he's just like, well, I don't expect him to go, well, actually, you would know how to do this, Bob. You wouldn't do that. You have a computer of one. You would go to Best Buy and maybe try to find someone who knows what to do. And if you have some cash, you can manipulate it because you don't want to get caught by the prince or the deputy or anything like that. You don't want to raise that noise. And meanwhile, Bob's looking at his sheet with his instinct of 4. not a lick of conscience, some conviction going on, and staring at DJ like this doesn't read instinctual. I think my way's better. I slam his head into the counter until he blurbs out of his mouth, "I'll go here and get the stuff." That's better for me, and that's what I'm looking for. Why? Because that's fun. That's entertaining to me.
Consequences. Severe and immediate.
Realism.
Sure. Yeah. I dig it.
Mike don't seem convinced.
I'm convinced. Somebody gonna die. I've seen it happen before. It's gonna happen again, and I suppose that's
Does
okay.
that scare you? Does that scare you or bother you?
As long as it's good. It's gotta be sweet if it's gonna be short.
Well, then we have an accord.
Brennan?
I'm down with this. Still going with one of those initial things that played out because I'm assuming someone is going to play that monster-esque vampire that calls us like morsels or whatever. I want to play the straight man in this scenario. All right, I want to be that.
You want to be the little
baseline,
spoon in prison.
Sure, what the fuck ever. Like, if this is going to be an odd couple, people might expect the like monstrous vampire, but I want to be the odd one in that I actually seem pretty monstrous. I'm like, yep, always upbeat in front of people. He's just feeding all that, and like in my head, I'm like, shit, we got to clean this up. I don't know who's coming after us, like all that stuff. But he doesn't break the character that everything is fine. So with that, we can have all these antics. That's fine because this is fun to him. Maybe he came from some like boring background and like as terrifying as all this is, there's still the not adrenaline rush because he's dead, but the equivalent of it.
All right, screw this. I say I got a theme idea. It's one we toyed around a bit in passing, just to get at Brennan. We make Mike the sheriff. We play deputies, me and Brennan. But Brennan has chosen the straight-laced investigator.
I'll be the good cop, the bad cop. Yes, I like this. I like this a lot.
Wait. So
yes, you're sheriff now.
All right.
That's if you want to do Cam. Don't let me take it away from you. Easily this translates to Ductus or leader of the NR gang or whatever it is. You can find spots.
I was going to say there's no good cop in this butt pack.
Oh, nene au contraire, my friend. There's always a good cop. Because if it's one thing I enjoy doing, I love knocking the dick of bishops and would-be archbishops in the dirt because they think, this is my Ductus Mike. And they go, well, you know who I am, do I? I'm the bishop that participated in this. You'll show me respect. I know you get up. We're going to find out what it means to be free. Or you can chill out and you can just explain to me why you are what you are. And either I earn their respect or I'm getting my ass whooped by somebody on the sidelines, but it'd be all three of us because we a pack and I drug you into it. And that's how that should go. But skirmishes and fights happen. It doesn't have to be that. That's why I'm saying this. It's a theme where one person is central, whether they're the sire and we're two children, or regnant and we're two ghouls. I'm open for all that because let me tell you, what was in me was like, I actually would really enjoy if it came down to the fact of I've never seen anybody do this. You hear all sorts of booty chatter about Zemis. We're going to play Zemis. We know how this interplay goes, this, that, and the other. And I say to myself, you know what would be really cool? Is if we take on the challenge of portraying what that could look like amongst three people, right? Got experience, what would it be? And you have room to be really useful. So you can have a Zemis who broke away, or whatever you want to call her, even if it's dark, it doesn't matter. But one's a Zemis, and another one is like, a revenant. That can happen. They don't have to be a vampire, but they are one who serves. And then you have a legitimate, not a ghoul, you are a prospect. Right? What is that? Why did I select you? And this leaves an open exploration of rather humorous sides of the coin. Because to me, the person playing the would-be master, they have to portray all the aspects of being the dragon and what that means, and lordship and everything like that. Magnanimous, hospitality, but definitely the possessiveness that you look for in that clan. But How they're going to portray what that is up to, the sculpting of the concept. But when it gets to the relationship, it is that they are a mentor or a doting father, a caring parent, at least in your perspective, as you play that role. Meanwhile, back at the ranch, you have a revenue who's like, dear God, I hope he leaves me alone tonight. Hey, how's it going, boss? What's, what do you need? What do you need going on? What are you talking about? The family could use some, don't worry about that. What do you need? I'm here for you. Oh, my favorite son, hanging on the shoulder. I need you to come with me, get the carriage, and we'll be going. It's 2022. It's a limo, sir. Remember the picture? It's a limo. We climb in, and we're going to go somewhere. Yes, right away. And do I need to bring the soil? I don't know. Do you? Fuck. Right? Somebody who can get that head game that you would play to keep your A game out of your servants, but the servants do it out of loyalty, if not respect and love. I think too much in Vampire, you hear the bullshit story about how I killed my sire. I don't have to worry about it. Or I broke away as a revenant, and I'm not with this Mies no more. I make my own way. Yeah, that's boring. Like, where are the stories about, how you do go with it? And that's one aspect, right? Seeing that. But then the final one is where that prospect chilled lives an enchanted life, is aware the revenant might be odd, but maybe that revenant's like a best friend, like around all day, is in charge, and you really don't get the creepy guy at night. And why you say creepy is because he does give you the chills. But the revenant keeps telling you, oh no, this is the patron. This is the guy who makes it all possible. That job you're interviewing for, it's going to take a while. I told you, we're a weird cult group you joined. Into the occult, you were, it's when we targeted you, you can understand some things. And you're a med student, aren't you? Well, yeah, I'm an EMT. Like, you got to work tonight? Yeah. Goody. Well, then we'll take your carriage. Man, the ambulance isn't a carriage. Like, what about my partner? Pay it no mind. Just let's go. Tell me to stop back at your ER. And says things like that only to watch a creepy vampire like mind mesm to allow us to get in, and the partner sits in the back of vegetable as we ride around to go on medical calls. Right? That could be highly entertaining, but I'm just pulling that out of the ether to showcase how that's entertaining and can be fun. And you can meet still some of that action, some of that necessary violence as players. But I'm excited for all that. But as long as those relationships are there, I'm there. But if you can't tell, I'm overexcited. I really need you guys to nail it down that we're doing X and we're doing Y, so I can take that energy and focus into what I need to be doing.
He's going to hentai tentacle monster all over the place if you don't stop him.
Jesus.
Okay,
so to prevent the pseudopod DJ from popping up, I'm still more interested in that like sheriff and like good cop bad cop deputies approach. That's what I'm leaning towards as far as where we're going.
Sure, I'll be the solid object. Y'all can play the odd couple. Are we going Cam? Any objections to Cam? I'm fine with Cam. I dig it. All right, Cam.
Is it you want to play Sheriff Mike? That's important.
I don't. It doesn't. I'm more interested in being the solid object between the odd couple than being the sheriff specifically. I don't give a shit about being sheriff. If we're in Cam, I'm the sheriff. Whatever. It could have been something else. I've had to play the go between poles before. Is what I'm saying, and it's fun. I like it.
So you're saying you're ready to reel these two in?
Yeah, I do. No. I do need to impress upon you, Mike, that just because I'm playing the good cop doesn't mean I won't get the sheriff in trouble. Sometimes the bad cop is needed. Look,
that is the role you accept when you agree to take two ne'er-do-wells under your what is the term? Wing? Guest?
Yep.
Yeah, vampires, bats have wings, whatever.
Yeah, right. That's what I'm saying.
The gauntlet's been thrown.
All right. So we got Cam Sheriff, good cop deputy, bad cop deputy, urban environment. Mm-hmm. Yep. Did we say yes or no on confinement? And where do we land on theme again? I forgot.
We didn't land on theme yet.
We didn't. Fuck. All right, I'll shut up.
if we're doing those themes, I'll give easy themes just to narrow that down because I'm now seeing a focus here. I like being in a place of turmoil. I really want to impress upon you, either being in L.A. or New York, but I really want to say New York. DJ lives there. He's from there. And where I ran it, it's like somebody running Chicago and they weren't there, but I live there. You know, I know certain key things and certain stuff to pull up. That's a certain different eye of it. Not saying people can't run places or not, but it's a different feel, and their perspective is typically a lot more fun than just the eye view from the book. Although they're good, they add more flavor to it. My vote's also New York because if we do it in like circa 1999, right when all that nonsense happens, or however DJ you want to do it. I really like that because the idea I want is to where the camera, we're in power in this neighborhood, but we keep getting like, I don't know, like we have to, it's us, but the challenges we get warrant a focus on the sheriff and deputies. You know?
Yep.
I'm not saying we got to be like bad vamps. What you gonna do? But you know, maybe. The other opportunity is LA, where, you know, you guys are in Hollywood Heights now, and you're going to walk around telling everybody else that it's Anarch Town and the Cam's in charge. This ought to be interesting.
I do like the idea of us playing where the ST is from. There's a certain depth that only comes from firsthand experience. So I'm in favor of New York.
As am I.
Brandon? Okay. So New York it will be. So it'll definitely be a New York that's in turmoil at one point or another, and the key factors will be the office as well as the deputies being the main focus, right? The scope and the lens is going to focus in on their day-to-day, if such a thing could even be said. Hell has its own way of having to deal with it. So we have an idea of it. We know that we're definitely going to be dealing with conflict, especially because you folks will be deputies and or sheriffs, you know, in the process of doing so. And there definitely is turmoil regardless of the timeline, whether it be 1999 or even the present. New York is only nominally in control, to say the least, right? There's still a lot of things that are happening in the background. The Sabbat is still a very real thing. Anarchs are even a real thing as well. So they have it assaulted from all different sides, as well as all the little pockets of things that may or may not happen there. So another question I wanted to ask is, to me, the timeline setting, I could run it at either time. I could run it to Actually, I'll say this before we even get further to this. I know that we also have our choice of systems, and I will give you folks the opportunity to decide the system. Time does not matter, because obviously our plot could maneuver away, but I understand as well some people feel more comfortable playing one system versus another. Would you rather play V20, or would you rather play the V5 version of it?
No disrespect to V5, but I got V20 in my heart. That's where I'm happy.
I was actually leaning the other way.
Well, Bob can be the tiebreaker.
Bob tiebreaker?
Yeah, that's rough. Here's the thing with V5. I think V5 is great, but there's a limited scale, and there are events that happen in V5 that if we're playing in the past, I just don't like. If we're playing modern V5 from where it is in New York after all this, I'm about V5. But the beckoning has to be in place. Second masquerade has to be in place because I feel, honestly, you just found my weakness. This is how I am. In the books, when I get them, when I buy them, when they're new and hot, my brain stays there because that's where I learned them and learned how to apply them. And I'm not really good on moving back and forth because to me, the rules were different. And the rules of a book change the feel of the era that the stuff was written for. So if we're going to be back in New York by night and in the 90s, late 90s, early 2000s, I would rather do V20. However, if we're going to modern it and still in New York, that's even more unknownville. And I can live with V5. This, I always feel better leaving it to the ST because it's based on what you're more comfortable with, or really because you're going to stick with what you're passionate about. That's what it is.
So no tiebreaker.
I would like to tell him. I would like to tell him Mom's story.
Go ahead.
Oh, shaking my fist? It's because Mike goes, so you're not going to do a tiebreaker. No, I'm not going to executive decision. Does DJ get a choice too?
The ST is the executive decision maker, sir.
If that is the case, I would like to run a modern game. As I was saying before, I would have ran it one of two ways, but I also do agree with Bob in terms of setting. Not to say that as well, and we will prove to players as well and our audience taking a look that things could be worked out, right? Because this is a true showing of what it's like to hang out with friends and be like, well, what do you want to play? How do you want to play it? What adjustments can we make? Because it doesn't have to exactly be by the book, because we have to do things that work for our table, right? And especially for our story, which is a lot more important. So it will be a modern story because there will be a lot of things going on as of right now and the aftermath of it. Because at one point or another, we know that a lot of the old heads that were sitting in New York were only there temporarily, up to and including our sheriff, who has a very, very interesting way of saying he really didn't want to be sheriff for a long time. So Mike got some big shoes to fill, along with his deputies and all the shit that comes along with it.
So by modern, do you mean modern or right the fuck now? V5.
Like, right the fuck now. I ain't talking about 2020. That shit ain't happened yet.
We are starting September 18th, 2022.
In the year of our Lord, 2022.
And I think for the first time ever, we've announced the time and date officially.
Mm-hmm.
Well done, Brandon.
Right,
now it's there. Everyone can hold us to that. And we're here for it. All right. What I've been chomping a bit at is anybody got a concept? And my fun part for a concept, we have to kind of agree the setup. I don't believe in the long convoluted stuff. I am, again, apple pie. I like my hamburger with maybe a slice of American cheese. I like maybe ketchup, a taste of mustard. Right? Jalapenos to the side because that's just the add-in for me to be unique. Other than that, apple pie is made with apples. Not mock apples, not deconstructed. It is apple-baked motherfucking pie, cooled on the windowsill. Now, what am I getting at with those analogies, which may be terrible? It's that I like things kept plain and simple when it comes to concept. Like an occupation, one word, occupation, what you did. You know, it tells us a lot about your life, is your career. And then the second thing should be like a personality trait or quirk of your character that tells us about that occupation. You don't have to know it fully fleshed out, but what's the energy we can expect? You know, the wellspring that the idea is jumping from.
Mm-hmm.
I've kind of got one, and it's one I've had like in a back burner now, but I think would actually work with like the good cop deputy. And that is someone that was in like like biohazard remediation or crime scene cleanup, someone that has to have like that attention to detail. And like one of his quirks is he is still an incredible germaphobe, even in Undeath. And that applies to the people he eats from too.
So you're a forensic germaphobe?
Yeah. And no, I'm not playing a Malkavian with this. Like it was someone that had like a decent company that was growing up. He was actually embraced as a Ventru.
So, but like, again, we're getting a little out of there. So I'm just so I could match up with you is what I'm trying to. Trust me. This works for me. This is my process, which is out of the book. Mm-hmm. I believe in how they wrote it. So bear with. I know there's a lot coming from it. But before we tether, I'm trying to say, so your occupation, you're forensic in some caliber, and that's fine. Forensics can be a lot, whether it's speech or cleanup or whatever it is. You're forensic something. All right. So boom, that's locked in. The second thing is, if you're not a germaphobe, well, then that's not the descriptor. Because I think your field makes it to where you would be naturally organized. Mm-hmm. Like I could see your character naturally being that way because it makes sense. You know how nasty things can get. But if he's now quirky with it, that tells me a lot. Like you walk around with white gloves and you're like Howie Mandel and shave your whole body hair off because you know what sticks to you. But yet somebody still loves it when you're up there and says, you got talent, right? Sorry, let me not go into weeds for you. But that's what I'm getting at.
Probably. So I said a germaphobe, and that's probably not a great like example. He's not someone that carries around, bottles of like of Germex everywhere, wiping down every surface. But it's like when he walks in an area, and if it's like obviously dirty, he'll have like a wrinkle in the nose. He does carry around like plastic gloves and like some cleanup stuff, but it's not like he's always wearing it. Occasionally we might have to bring someone out and then we got to throw a tarp down because we don't want to get, chunks of flesh or whatever anywhere in a particularly grisly area, but someone that is at least knows what to look for whenever we get into a spot that might have been pretty messy. Does that make sense?
It makes sense, but like, could you put that in abbreviated 2 words so my brain can keep up? I'm not good. I'm not that good. Or maybe I'm just asking for like, what would you call that? Yeah, I mean, we can help guys. Like,
I would just call that for like forensic cleaner.
Just a forensic cleaner. Okay. I say just so I know, not saying that needs to be more than that.
2-word descriptor helps a hell of a lot for every concept.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So I also get that your guy is really straight-laced. The guy's really like a gum-chewing, pay my parking tickets type. What about you, Mike? Do you have something?
Kinda. I'm pulling something together. I'm trying to combine Elliot Ness with like okay, you guys remember the character from the League of Extraordinary Gentlemen who
I'm familiar with this film.
had his
Thank God for Netflix.
Fucking Dorian Gray. Elliot Ness and Dorian Gray.
Elliot Ness and Dorian Gray.
As in Stuart Townsend, or are you talking about like actual Dorian Gray, as in the character from that movie?
No, not Stuart Townsend. Actual Dorian Gray, the character from I think Poe. Is it Poe? Am I tripping?
It's a book on it.
I don't know who the author was. Point is, Elliot Ness and Dorian Gray. Right, I'm trying to put these two things together.
So you're a driven hedonist, or actually, if we do it with occupation, you're an investigator hedonist.
Because Elliot Ness was a prohibition agent. He's like the opposite of a hedonist.
Right, but it's the concept of it. Like, so when you say Elliot Ness, it's somebody with a purpose that is skilled in your occupation was to capture someone, to pursue someone and capture them. That's what you're getting at.
Yes. Yes.
So that is so that's like it's something. So we can say, is that an investigator in that type, or is he a cop, or is it something like a bounty hunter?
No. Definitely in life, it would have been actual, either some sheriff department or one of the alphabet boys or whatever. Genuine professional investigative experience.
Okay, so we'll just leave it investigator. But hedonist is the second one?
Yeah, because in my mind, the reason he gets embraced is because he didn't have control of his vices.
And so that's awesome. Yeah. Right, so hedonist investigator, and we have a forensic cleaner. So what I'm going to ask for is something weird, and I knew I was going to do this, and it's going to be hard. But DJ, if you would, I need a random occupation.
Oh, Jesus.
Now, let everybody know, I'm accused often of having a list of things put to the side, like pre-planned and ideally there, ready for me to go. I have this, and people wonder where I come up with stuff from. And it's actually just creativity. It really is. So, but here's the trick, though. I have my parameters. We know the setting, we know the city, we know what we're doing. And I have a forensic cleaner who I'm supposed to be playing the bad guy to. And, good cop, bad cop, I should say. So I'm the bad cop here. And Mike is a hedonist. He's an investigative hedonist. Okay.
Oh, man. An occupation? Jesus.
I got one.
You can throw one out, Mike.
Go ahead, Mike.
Professor.
You said professor?
Yes.
I'm not going to lie. I was going to say the first thing that popped into my mind was a school teacher. Inner city school teacher.
So professor or inner city school teacher?
I don't know why that popped up, but we got knowledge on the mind.
I would accept inner city school teacher. Professor's a different thing to me. Okay. But I would accept inner city school teacher.
Now, for something to be bad cop, I think it's a cop out. to say that it's somebody who's just necessarily violent. But definitely the pit bull is the role I heard selected and thrown at me. Somebody who isn't, I'm going to say the school teacher isn't accepting the transition well. I'm going to say the school teacher is lower on humanity. And the problem with the school teacher is that much like a police officer, especially being inner city, the turmoil of their existence has aided them before they were embraced. And it was like, screw this, I just got to live out till my pension kicks in. And I had that. And then this person gets embraced. And what would they change? And I'm going to say I know very easily that they did a lot of revenge stuff once they got this power. It is somebody who is exploding. They're coming into their prime, as they would say it. And it's someone who knows things very, very well of what goes on. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to be a history teacher. That's what I taught of the city we're in, obviously, what I go over. And that's where my degrees are going to lie. But in terms of why, so if we say, to keep with the second half of it, I'm going to say school teacher of vengeance.
You're going to wish you got to go to Mr. Ochag Hennessy's office.
That's what I'm going to go with, and we're going to do that. Last but not least, I almost feel Brent Trent said Venture already. Did that change?
No.
Mike,
not yet. If that changes between like finalizing the sheets, I'll of course let y'all know. But right now, Venture I think fits with how I'm seeing him.
What about you, Mike?
So I've forgotten some stuff about V5, but what I had in mind was either a Setite, or I'm sorry, don't tell me, Ministry now, or my tried and true Lasombra, right? One of those two.
Ministry or Lasombra as a sheriff. It's a bold move, Cotton, and we're in New York City.
I can't get away with that. I'll think of something else.
You can't get away with what?
Don't shoot yourself down here. I'm the SC. Like, how would you know what I would say, or well, we're supposed to work things out? You already putting words in my mouth?
Forgive me.
At least
I'm sorry. I made several assumptions in bad taste. I was thinking Setite, and then actually Lasombra came to my mind. And that's where I'm at right now. But let me know under what circumstances that's viable, DJ. I didn't mean to step on your shoes.
Both are viable, but you have to tell me the reason why.
Well, the reason I would think of a Lasombra in a law enforcement position is a theme we saw real strong in our Chicago game. They're expendable. And they also, just as a rule, tend to be super effective. But I'm also thinking of somebody who wasn't a former Sabat member and kind of got the stink of the Lasombra's defection on them, even though they were never part of that sect. Am I making sense? Like somebody who 20 years ago you would have called a Lasombra anti because they were always Camarilla. Right? But things change, stuff happens, the clan leaves the sect, everybody knows what your clan is, and then it's like, well, were you always Camarilla, motherfucker? You know what I'm trying to say?
I hear what you're saying. I'm just letting you speak.
And then the reason I was thinking Setite is purely because I've never got to play a character that is explicitly instead of implicitly corrupted or okay with corruption. Like, I've played a lot of guys who fucked up and tripped and fell into a lifestyle that was a perversion of what they said they were, right? But the Setite's inviting to me because I would be interested in playing somebody who, like, corruption was part and parcel of their day to day, even when they were living. I've played one character before that was similar to that, and it didn't last that long. So yeah, That's why I'm at where I'm at with 2 clans.
I'm letting it resonate. Go ahead, Bob.
I really feel, and I hand you the hilt of my sword. You're going to need to pick my clan because I have 4 really good ones that are so good. I don't know what you're going to classify as being out of hand, and it could walk through them. But remember, it's the School Teacher of Vengeance. And the easiest one that comes to mind is a Bruja Helene. That's the easiest. If you'd have learned your fucking lessons right when they told it to you, I wouldn't be here cracking your skull open to see what it is that actually did stick in the inside of your cerebellum and then poke at it. That's what this is. And that's one. It's real channel-y violent. The other one that I liked the one that I liked the least, that's my lie, folks, if you don't know. The one I like the least is always the lie. The one I like the best is the Malkavian. It is the school teacher that gets it, gets life, gets the corruption, gets what it is, and that what we need is a reset, a breath of fresh air. And no better breath of fresh air than to convince a hierarchy that their positions are tainted, that they're the source of the corruption, that they will never stop the endless cycle of raising what they have to kill and committing the violence over and over again. That's what they're doing. And that's the new lesson that I follow now to teach everyone. And so before you think it's, oh, so you're an anarch then and you jump in the bandwagon, no, I have one goal. It's to convince the prince to lay down the crown, because if there is no one of authority, then we truly can be the vampires we were meant to be, and this gets a lot easier because we will tear each other apart. And that's, you may be wondering why, and I say, School Teacher of Vengeance. You're all corrupted, evil bastards, and that's the way it is. And I said to myself, I could define that better. That can go so much cooler. But that's a great NPC, by the way, of all the things that guy could get up to do. And I said, all right, promised you 4. The other one I had was a Ventru. And it was completely not like you expect. This is somebody who seeks to bankrupt the city. It's to do the reverse. It's to empower the middle class to be the new rich. Because the rich now, they're doing what? They're sitting on large sums of money expecting the system to correct itself, and they're not using it, and they're not helping anyone. But people don't need $33 billion sitting in their bank account to live off the residuals. They don't need that when there's tons of people who need homes, food, and help, and there's all these resources out here. But the resources of those who would get it's not a handout, and we need to trim the fat. So there is a whole process of him using the Camarilla in order to do just that. And so when he trades and deals, he makes odd things done as a deputy. He might get to you and Brennan might say, oh, don't worry, Mr. Permingen, we have this. We're here to Carmen. Don't worry about it. Meanwhile, I pull that Permingen aside and go, what he means to say, we're going to collect this info and we're going to go sit and have a chat with the sheriff. And if you don't like this to end up in the prince's lap, I have something I'd ask of you. On October 9th of next year, around this time, as it turns out, Rice is going to take a dip in the stock market. And it will, because you're going to invest no less than the sum I'm about to tell you. And you're going to do just that at that exact moment. You will be recouped on any losses you get, but there will be no loss. And no, you don't get to ask me why. And this is by design. So you make a choice of what you want to do. And that's that. And that's why he's bad cop. He's making deals that aren't boons, sticking it to people he shouldn't, get Mike pulled in to like kind of go, what the hell is this guy doing? And Mike having to go, well, you know, hey, what are you doing? And me go, nothing, boss. Just earning you some change. Just trying to help you out. You know, planning my future. And that's one I kind of enjoy a lot, but maybe doesn't have to be. And then the final one was, well, they're not called that anymore, but I would call it that because of the way I'd play it. It would be a Giovanni, but not like you think. It would be somebody who, I don't know why, but I like the idea of being, you know, I'm someone from New York that got embraced by some guy who said, you know, he liked my Italian blood and he didn't figure it out. I just got out of a dime in the pen. And what did I go in for? well, it's none of your business, but are you a cop? No? Okay. Because I cracked his motherfucking head open because the old uncle his shoes on time and he didn't bring them. And who else was going to do it? You? So I did. And lo and behold, I got bit in the neck and it hurt like hell, and here I am. Oh, someone explained to me the weird guy I got to report to every month with a handful of money or apparently some baubles from people I killed, and the guy sits with a weird mask. Looks like he's been in a famine since like the 1800s. Weird cloaks and whatnot, smells like ass. Yeah, apparently I got to call him the boss. Can we help me figure that out? This is why I said there's virtually no clan you can't give me that I can't fit this concept in, but some I like more than others.
I have my preferences.
Help me. Help me.
I'll throw my two that I enjoy. I'd rather enjoy the Malkavian one and the Hikata one / Giovanni.
I had the same two. The exact same two.
Then I will vote
Tiebreaker?
for Hikata.
They cop done.
All right. Here goes.
It's important to note that someone watching did throw out Torador, and I could do Torador, but y'all didn't vote for that, so.
We already have a... So, Mike, are you saying that your ministry member is much more like Norman Stansfield from a professional?
That is who I remember it to be, not quite.
But that's the feel of. So, Gary Oldman's character, guy's just corrupt as shit, walks in, listens to Beethoven, has no problems doing what he has because he frees himself, and nothing could really stop him. Even at the end of the movie, no one stopped him from doing anything. He was able to say that great line, bring in everyone. Who's everyone? Everyone!
I was thinking more like Bad Lieutenant, but that didn't have a good ending for that guy, so...
So the reason I say not quite is because that guy doesn't give me the impression that he would be trusted to wrangle potentially problematic but talented deputies.
Why would you say that? He's effective, is he not?
He is.
And he had a whole bunch of like lackey crews. He had a dude with dreadlock rust. My dude was like, he was just chilling. He was part of that crew as well. I'm just like throwing it out there so our audience kind of has an idea of like what I'm picturing in my head when you mention certain concepts as they pop up.
If that is the arrow, if that is the neon sign in your brain, I'm going to go with it.
Okay, so what would you like to choose then between both?
Well, so the more I thought about it, like I feel like the Lasombra is more appropriate, more interesting for what we're doing, and the Setite was me being a little bit selfish, right?
Okay. So
my instincts are telling me the formerly Lasombra auntie, now apparently just Lasombra sheriff, who I don't know. I imagine that I would have got to be sheriff just because of some relationship with whoever the prince is now. Somebody bringing in their own guy. You know, nothing too complicated about that. What did I miss, Bob? Did I say something silly?
It's dude. I'm on a tear. I was just. Sorry. I didn't want to interrupt what you were doing, but since you asked, it's school teacher of vengeance. It's this guy learning that oblivion, and he has a little handbook where he wrote down sticky notes. All right, I got this guy. I put him in the back. That's you guys. Calm it down. He's got the gag in place. I gotta wait till midnight, and then I gotta carve out his thigh and rip out a bone while he's still alive. Well, how the hell do I do that? And then I beep, 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 call it Brennan. Hey, how do you keep a guy alive after I rip out his thigh bone? Because I then got to tie it into something and apparently beat him to death with it. You got to do this ritual too? And Brennan's like, no. And I don't even think you're supposed to tell me you're doing that. And it's like, oh,
No.
well, you want to come over and help me out? I got a part. Look, you always need a good study partner. I told my kids that too, but nobody listens to me. But it's a necessary thing. I really find this to be it's a lot of. Thank you. I'm quiet again.
If I have to deal with that, I'm not playing the set type because that game is going to go off the rails by session 2.
Why do you, Mike? You just throw yourself under the bus all the time. Why would it fall under session 2 in terms of you feeling that can't be possible? Also, if you decide to go the route of Via La Sombra, right? One of the things is
because I'm being honest, right? I'm saying the things that I'm saying based on what my history has told me my tendencies are. Right? I'm going to try to keep both hands on that concept until I'm deeply entertained by doing something else. And then we'll be right after we won't be playing the game we said we were going to play. So instead, I'm going to choose the concept that makes it easier for me to remember what the fuck I'm supposed to do. Because both would be fun. But if I put my mind inside the La Sombra ante trying to hold on to a hard-earned reputation after his clan screwed him over by deciding we want to be Cam too, it's easier for me to play the solid object between Brennan's character and Bob's character. And so I'm actively learning to exercise discipline as a player in this way.
Okay. Tell me how it would tie into being a hedonist investigator.
Well, there's no sauce there. I just feel like very traditionally the La Sombra takes somebody who has been shattered either by the sire's doing or by their own misfortune. And the hand you get up is you seem to be capable. You can accept this unlife or I'm going to dismiss you from this playing. Because you represent an opportunity for me, but I can't have you telling anybody what I'm up to if you say no. And that's that. Like I said, I'm imagining a former professional who's dismantled. I haven't decided what the vice would be yet. But it's gonna have to be something real tropey, right? Like alcoholism or violence, police violence. Yeah, I feel like he was his own undoing.
Right, but if the Sombra are practical creatures, right? Because there's a certain thing of they break you down just to prove that you can do the function. You've told me about his past, but you haven't told me how he's crawled out of the hole to become something of an exemplar for his clan.
Well, I mean, there's a great big addiction that replaces whatever your previous addiction was, unless you're unlucky enough to be embraced with certain flaws, right? So every baby vamp has to learn how to satisfy that addiction, and I'm thinking he managed. And now that you asked me that question, I'm kind of curious about somebody who might be better suited for a vampire's lifestyle than for a man's. But I don't know. I'm putting this together on the fly, and I'm not Bob. I got to chew on it.
So, kiss it. Keep it simple, stupid. Kiss it. What's your concept?
Hedonist investigator.
You see La Sombra as a hedonist investigator based on what you said? I know, I sure don't. I could throw something out for you. I could see a Bruja. I could see a Toreador. I could see a very eccentric Malkavian. I don't see a Ventrue, if only because you have typically, especially in Camarilla, you have a stronger hierarchy looking to regain their strength in V5. That might come down even hard about what you do and don't. But that could be why you play the Ventrue that can. Right? What if you're a rook in the clan who got sheriff to prove it, and you got an important sire? I mean, it's all in how you build it. But at your core, you're a guy who lets a lot of shit go. But you got to learn. What if you were given us as that challenge? right? You want to prove your way up. That's a great way to do it. The people drawn to playing Lasombra in V5 are folks who don't get that the draw of it is the razor's edge of life and death. And what sucks is you have a storyteller who won't pull the trigger when you screw up. See what I'm saying? If you want that Lasombra as a long life and a culture and everything else that goes with it, play the ones that didn't betray their sect and aren't basically on a run begging the camera to belong, who are the enemy, who still have a lot of vengeance and angst towards what they did because they know the Lasombra ran that sect that is the Sabbat. The structure, the hierarchy, the direction, the flow.
No. That's where I was at. That's what I was saying before about, I think it would be interesting to be somebody who would have been a Lasombra anti until the Lasombra flipped and they got that stink on them.
Too many mind, bro.
Right. Too much mind.
Too many
you forgot
mind,
where
bro.
you started from. Hedonist Investigators where you started.
I don't.
That simple, beautiful question. Why would your sire choose you, the Hedonist Investigator?
Because I was good. I might be sleepy. Forgive me if I'm
right.
Right.
But to help you address that, that's often what people say. Right. That's often the most common thing said because I'm that good at being an investigator. Like, okay, so you're a good investigator, but you're also a hedonist, right? Remember, Dorian Gray was the inspiration. He wasn't just a hedonist; he was a fuck up of a hedonist. Right? There was some slack to what they did. Right. So where in that spectrum are you drawn? If it's just a hedonist, okay, but you're not so bad then. To be somebody who likes his pleasures and that's part of your quirk, that's one thing. But when you say Dorian Gray, we're talking about the debauchery king.
Yeah, he went a little far. I didn't think about that. Yeah, I'm back to the drawing board there. I don't have an inclination on clan.
Well, that's why I'm helping, right? When we keep it simple, it comes down to what jumps out at you the most that you feel that fitting in. So if you look at the stereotypes of the clans, I pitched out a few, but it's like to Mike, what clicks that what clan would have the investigative skill, interest, or makeup with that hedonistic flair you can add in? And here's a trick. A lot of the occupations you pick, they almost fit lockstep in the stereotype of the clan. Right? Almost. You got to fudge it sometimes, like mine. Like school teacher, I wouldn't have thought Hecata, but at the same time, they're old, they investigate, they're ancient. That actually does make sense, and there's a way to get in there, but I'm also somebody who's beyond the pale, and I could get with that. In other words, that's my challenge, is that's the clan I have, but my issue is not an issue at all. It's picking a direction to roll with why I was chosen. And an easy one for me is vengeance. It's raw vengeance. I'm not a Giovanni. That's going to be interesting in the Hecata to do it, because what are you then, if anything? You're Hecata. So that's a thing. And we'll see what that feels like. It's the first Hecata I've played as a player. That's also the draw of it. So I'm up for that challenge, but it is a challenge to put all the pieces together. So in the terms of the challenge of an investigative hedonist that you're choosing, and one that has to play mediator between two halves, it's just a suggestion, but I would pick something skilled at being known to be able to diplomatically handle things. Not that that's how you have to build them, but a clan that at least something about you says you have charisma, a certain way of being, or a skill of the tongue. Not that you can't do other things, but that is a hallmark of what drew you to the one who made you. Because what is in you is reflected in them. You still can be an individual from it, but if you keep it that simple, my sire is known to me because of the investigative hedonist. He's actually a mediator himself, and that's what they did with something over here. And then we shelved that idea because you're just building a relationship, how your sire was to you and how you're known. It's like if I present a Chilled to a prince. It's not the freaking Sabbat. I didn't randomly embrace people at a Taco Bell. I went and got permission. And that means I had to tell the prince who I wanted to embrace and why. And maybe I had to get sponsorship, and I had to go through a whip who make all the favors and arrangements to talk to a Primogen who made all the favors and arrangements to put me to the Harpy who would now, this night, is going to put me in touch with the Seneschal. And they're all going to go through to see if the child I'm choosing and the right I want is within, because it's the prince who has to say yes or no. But for it to be worth the prince's time, the prince is going to stall me out as long as they want to. But in the end, they know what carrot to dangle me because they know what I'm going to ask for. So the prince might have told you, I'm willing to grant this to you, sire to be for Mike. But, and it sounds sound enough, but there's something I need, completely different. But to go through all that effort, the sire definitely chose you for a reason. And there has to be something in you that reflects either to the machinations of the sire, and that's why they chose to pick you, or there's something about you that sings to them about who they are. Loneliness is part of ennui. Companionship helps combat that. And you might say that at some point in a vampire's life multiple times, you would choose somebody to help take the edge away from forever, to be able to show them the world through your eyes and maybe learn something new about yourself.
See, I know what you sound like, but I don't like them. I just don't. I don't like them even a little bit. Never played one, rarely written one.
I missed that. Who's this?
Toreador.
Look, you call it the whammy. I'm serious, you call it the whammy. But Mike, if we go over your roleplay style, you're somebody who prefers to pollute the simplistic waters of the mind. What I mean by that, no matter the topic, you will expound upon it always. You will go forever to exhaustive lengths to dance around something that is ultimately your choice. I feel a lot of players do this because you yourself, you don't want to admit what you want to play. Really, truly. I know that's what you're doing here. And you're trying to showcase that you can play something else. But at the end of the day, the question asked is, well, I said all the things. There's nothing I'll say no to. Help me define it down. You're saying, well, I guess, but maybe, well, all right, that wouldn't fit, and you wouldn't let. You're actually doing the permissions dance.
Well,
and that's exhausting to watch.
I said what I wanted to play, but it was a bother.
Right. Is it a bother? I didn't hear DJ say it's a bother. I heard you walk away from it. So if it's a legit compromise, bro, peer-to-peer, like, did you hear him bat an eye once when I said Hikata?
No, I didn't.
Do you know why? It's not because I'm Bob. Think of the approach. I got like 4 strong ideas. My favorite really is Malkavian, but I then have this and I have that. I have passion. I know exactly what I want. I know why I would want it. I know what I want to bring in the game. I know how I'm going to portray it even. And I have ideas and thoughts on it. My character's already done, in fact. Right? It's boom, 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 done. I just got to do the work. But aside from that, hearing my peers, though, is changing what I'm going for. Because now I have to do a subtle dance. I can't play somebody that's not going to get along with you and not going to get along with Brennan. But Brennan hasn't changed his stance. His literal, straight-up concept is what it is. But what you're sounding like is that I'm changing the flow of even maybe my concept. Because if I said investigative hedonist, all right, well, what's the clan you said you wanted to play with that?
I don't remember what the other one was before. Setite, Lasombra or Setite.
Okay, so ministry is key. What do you understand of the ministry? And this is what I mean. Keep it in the confines of your concept. How would an investigative hedonist fit in New York City as a sheriff, as a ministry member?
Well, I don't know. I'm trying to think of something clearer than what I was describing before.
Okay, if I can ask you a gentle question. Do you know the ministry?
No.
Okay.
I know the Setites prior much better.
That's why I said. That's why I said. Let's pause, right? Because that's what it is. You are trying to get somebody to accept letting you play something you don't know how to play, and so it's going to be hard for NEST to say yes because they don't. They clearly understand that that's what it is. But to ask that question, DJ, since it's collaborating here, are you willing to teach and help Mike play a ministry member that you believe he could play and that fits in what he's looking for?
Almost definitely.
So let me throw this in though. Part of the reason why I thought I would get away with it is because I'm describing somebody who's much older than the changes that made the sex what they are now anyway. And so I thought that the knowledge of the way the Setites used to be might apply. But
you're not adapting. Welcome to sounding like every fan of V20 when V5 got launched. You're refusing to update what the story is. You don't want to let go. The Setites in V20 were presented as a cult, the same snake cult, no matter any way you sliced it. The same snake cult, any flavor you want, snake, Typhon, whatever, the beast. And then they got crazy and started saying, no, it's the Echidna and whatever nonsense it is, right? The Typhonian demon is real, all sorts of stuff. And it's like, well, we're in the weeds, right, to what the perspective is. But when you looked at their clan books and whatnot, what happened? Well, the ministry is what happened. And they took a very logical step by saying, wipe that clean, throw all that shit out in the desert where it belongs, and it does, right? That's some ancient sand shit every bit like the Nadas have to deal with. And that's like ideally Sabbat stuff even. So when it comes down to it, if you want to pull out knives and fight in the name of Set, that's the war. That's the war the Sabbat are going to fight against the antediluvians. But what does it say about the majority that's left? You get the ministry. And when you read the ministry, I'm not going to get into it now because I'm a big proponent of you don't know. It's DJ's perception of what the ministry is that you need, but not here.
Right.
You see what I'm saying? That's a deeper conversation because you did something very important. You said, and it's very big of you to do this, yes, I'm part of the 25 years team. Yes, I've talked about it and we went through books, but I'm admitting I don't know something. And that's very cool for anybody, and it's hard to do. But by you admitting not know, what you're also saying is I'm dumping out the cup of knowledge that I have of who they were, and I want to drink the ministry cup. And that gives DJ an opportunity to help walk you through what that is. But I have to throw one wrench in here for you to think about it. Do you want to try to play a sheriff that has the additional add-on of 2 experienced players that you're playing the rock to, in addition to learning about a clan that you don't know in V5, on top of being burdened with the responsibility to carry all those plates? Is that something you feel you can do? Because I'm concerned about that as a player.
Which was the original reason for my pivot to the Lasombra. You'll recall that I said, if I pivot to the Lasombra, I'm deeply grounded, and I feel much more prepared to act as a solid object between your 2 characters.
But you're not realizing what you're doing. I call that a dodge. That's a dodge. I stacked it in front of you, and I wrote a verbal contract that said, you are aware of all that will be expected of you to do what you want. This is what it takes for you to play what you want. And what you went was, I'll accept the consolation prize right now.
Yeah, because that's what I said originally. It wasn't. I don't
understand how you're not, but you see what I'm saying. You can play what you want to. DJ's already even said yes. He's already even said yes. And you're going, but I already said I'd play a Lasombra, so let's just do that. Well, then, if you're still pushing the Lasombra, is it that you really don't want to play the ministry and you're just going to do the Lasombra because it's what easiest? It's where does your heart lie?
I wanted to play the ministry guy, but the Lasombra was acceptable because of what I gain in the trade.
Okay, right? Acceptable to who, Mike? It's only you. It's only you, bro. This is only about you.
I'm talking about my own concern. What I said was
not your own concern. We're not. You're doing this. Is called falling on your sword. Where you're trying to say, I want to consider everybody else. I want to consider the ST. When I'm asking you peer to peer, bro. When I said, what do you want to play? What do you have interest in? Your passion's important here. What do you want to take the challenge of? If you heard what the challenge is to do the ministry and do all that, then that's where we're at. And that's what you agreed to. Right.
Mhm.
And then he can work with you, and then I know to take it easy and build something understanding. You don't know all the things. Brennan does too, and we can work with that. But
Yeah, but I'm not interested in being the person you got to take it easy for.
of course you are, because you don't know. I don't know what kind of attitude that is, right? Because that's not even open-minded. That's saying that I'm just going to do this because I don't know that. And that's not fair. How many people play Vampire and don't know what it even is? And if they took that stance, they would never have even played. How do we know that you're not the best Ministry player ever? Right? You don't even know that yet. But I'm willing, as your friend, to go with you on that journey to find out and to give you the opportunity to do it. And this isn't talking into you to do it, but this is what I mean when I say you have to go with your heart and see what it is you have interest to do. Because when we just accept, well, this is a better fit, I'll just do this. What that is literally just playing the play. You're showing up, this will fit, I guess I'll do this, and blah, blah, blah. And I have no interest being in a game where somebody is doing that. There are a ton of games out there I can be in, and a ton I could even run, a ton more I run, where people try to take that stance. But if it's the one thing I'll rip from you, is your ability not to enjoy what you do because you think I need you to somehow fulfill my gaming experience when I don't need you. I would like to have you be here and feel just as free as I do to not only say your point and opinion, but to try new things and to take on new challenges and to grow as a player and thus grow in this hobby and enjoy yourself without fear of judgment. That's what I want for you.
Mm-hmm.
But I also want you to be aware of what you're asking, because I'm that ST too. You know, it's that ask for DJ.
I was saying, if that's the want is important, man. If you want to play that Ministry member and then get through it, we could work through it. And there are many, many ins as to how that's possible for doing so. You just don't know it yet, but we could work on it together and then make that happen. Because I'm still going off of, for me, especially as the ST, when we started, especially with Concept, Hedonist Investigator sounded great. So following through that line, to me, It seems a more perfect fit.
I'll play the Ministry.
I'm only laughing, Mike, because I've seen this stoic look before. Oh, no. This is what I'm talking about. A lot of people will end up here. I've ended up there too, where you want to do what's best for a game, but that's not the game is best when you're happy.
Mm-hmm.
That's what it is. That's when everybody is. Whatever that is to take you to get there.
God, I mean, we'll see.
We got you.
But talk it out, Mike. That's a lot of tension I can see in your face, man. What you feeling?
I said what I had to say. I said it when I was first talking about the concept. Right? I'm actively working on recognizing a pitfall ahead of time at the point of character creation and deciding whether or not the juice is worth the squeeze as a player. Which is why I explained that I feel like trying to portray this concept as a Lasombra, an area I'm more familiar with, especially since we're playing V5 and not V20, was an acceptable compromise.
Then I'll accept that maybe I misheard you, and maybe you didn't understand when I asked you what do you want to really play versus what you feel you have to. And then that's better. And then when we do that, and to understand it between it, I'll take that on me. That you feel I'm pressuring you to play a Ministry character. That's weird considering how I just asked you. Plainly. Right? Straight up.
I'm not saying you guys are pressuring me. I'm just saying I was actively trying to exercise some wisdom that I've not had before. And y'all are telling me, don't bother, just do what makes you happy. And it's like, okay. But
we've talked that out, Mike, because you said wisdom that you used before or whatever, that comment right there. Like you saw something you didn't see before.
Yeah, like recently I've learned that I can get the same or similar level of enjoyment out of a character if I anticipate problems that don't particularly interest me and figure out a pivot that'll still let me have the fun I want to have. Right? Because like you said, I've gone into the weeds before about dudes that I wanted to play, writing a little too much, reading a little too much, letting it be deeper than it has to be, and just end up dealing with extra shit in the role play, in the actual playing of the character. And so a skill that I was trying or have been trying to develop is reining those instincts in to do a little bit too much, right? Normally I do a little bit too much, feel like I'm getting better, and we can do less than that, right? And still enjoy what we're doing.
Okay.
But if that's not appropriate, I certainly don't get to play a game with this particular group almost ever. That could be all the difference.
It could be. And the thing I'm noticing here is that based on what you said, it still sounds like there's a standard you're trying to be at. And what I'm trying to say is when you have a game this intimate, right, and this is key, we know each other well. In a game this intimate, there is no stress or pressure or standard, right? You could have said, I want to play a Hidden Bali in V5 and see how that works. That's your own damn conversation to have with DJ, because good luck. I'm not even so bold. Like, he'd thrown that clan at me, I'd have laughed off the screen in terms of how that's going to go. There's no way, right? But in putting in what I really want to play, that's hard for me because I'm just happy to be a player. So I become the easiest person to nail down. Just give me something, right? I'm hungry for that. But I know you're somebody who has a lot of clans and you don't have a whole lot of experience playing all of them, but you've story told for them. And what I mean by that, in the 20th you have and you get the concepts and you're a great ST. But when you're a player and someone asks you straight up, what would you like to do? You had to have noticed by now, everybody gets tripped up the same way. Hey, what would you like to play? Here's the setting. Here's the theme. I have I don't know. And maybe you'll let me play a True Burha. That's why. No,
you're trying to filter all the possibilities you're aware of through the bullshit you don't want to deal with, so you can get the game you prefer. Right?
But like your concept was accepted, right? That was agreed to, and then you were asked what clan you wanted to play most. And of the one that was thrown out, he just asked for a reason behind it because he's trying to build a plot for it. Immediately, for all that we throw out, he's trying to take notes on it. And part of that note hiccup is that he has to take down, are you experienced with the clan or do you need help with it? And you identified that you will need help. So he can't go into an in-depth advanced plot immediately. He's going to show you what they're about. And that's a learning process. But he also has to take on the challenge, but you're the sheriff. That's an experienced role. Mike, the player, can handle being a sheriff, but you're a ministry member. But maybe you're a ministry member who didn't get that deep into the clan. And maybe now your plot is the clan's going to come asking you to do more. And now that we're focused on the game, he can do that. And that's perfectly acceptable. But that is just in one way, one of many, that he could take to help you start learning about that clan. That's learning as you play it, which is a breath of fresh air for you. And I know you're going to turn around and go and read about the ministry and the ins and outs and blah, 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 blah. But DJ is still going to go through with it with you so you can feel it out as you experience and play it to the character to apply it. Because that's anybody. But Mike, the process I'm using is the process you use with your own players. And I've seen it. Don't worry about all this over here and what I'm not going to accept and not. Tell me the joy and the joy target, and I'll help you get there. And that's what we just did, and that's all we're doing.
Mm-hmm. And also remember as well, because one of the things that they speak about, not only in V5, but I think in more recent role-playing games, is remember that I am a player too, right? Mm-hmm. Even though I'm the one telling the story and that's my aspect of being the player, I too have to work with you guys. I too have to also think about my contribution to the game as well in terms of the characters, or in this case, helping out my fellow players get maximum enjoyment from the game. Right, so in that case, that's the reason why we also go through it, because much like Bob said, the reason I don't bat an eye to Brendan just wanted to be venture. Brendan feels very secure in what he's doing. Good, then I know because he feels secure in what he's saying, let him rock, because he's going to rock it in that particular fashion. And if you want to do something, and that's why every time I play a new character, I'm like, give me something I haven't played before, because it's the fun of finding it out. And if we trip up, we all trip up together. But you know what? We all have fun doing it, and that's the whole point of getting together. And then next scene, we're like, yo, that was a pretty interesting scene. Maybe next time I'll do something different with my character, but that's just to kind of let you know you're in safe hands. That's all. But speaking of safe hands, though, all this is where you should actually start to worry, or I shouldn't even say worry, but this is actually the Chronicle tenets, which are important, right? Because this is what will glue you guys together so that you actually have something to stick to without hopefully biting each other in the ass, so to speak. Any ideas, folks?
Well,
Do you want to go with
know.
don'ts or do you want to go with do's?
There you go. You read my mind.
I'd
What was
rather
that,
go with
Bob?
dues.
Dues? What you want to do then?
Well, now I said that on the spot. Now I feel pressured. No, the
I ain't heard from you, Brennan. Let's go.
okay, one Chronicle tenant from all the players. I think that's fair. What I want us to do is I want us to all be like working together. I don't want there to be like no backstabbing. Is that acceptable? It's like it goes more. It's like let's say, Mike, that the two of us are at, say, like a Waffle House or a Denny's at 2 a.m. and we know there's a psycho killer in the walk-in freezer. One of us doesn't just walk away. Can we agree to that? That very non-specific?
There was a reason that happened.
That very non-specific Chronicle tenant that totally isn't something I'm dragging up from 3 years ago.
So we will not abandon each other at a Waffle House or a Denny's when a psycho
I
killer
didn't know
is
he was there, first of all. And second of all, it was
Okay, an IHOP. Thank you.
So how would you like to phrase that, Brennan?
Don't abandon one another.
loyalty.
Loyalty.
Okay, loyalty.
So I
Would
think
it
it
also
goes
be
beyond
almost
that.
fair to say the problem of one is the problem of all?
I don't know about that. Here's why I like loyalty. If there's a situation where I'm about to get just jacked because I started some stuff, I don't expect them to necessarily dive in to help out. I do expect them to stop them from staking me or killing me.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Right? And that's, your mouth gets you in trouble. You write checks your body can't cash, however you want to put it. That's the way to go. But there's limits to it, right? And that's because I think that's rational and acceptable. I mean, that's what people do in real life anyway. For all that people talk about, you jump my boy, you don't just take on him, you take on everybody. Really, it's a bunch of shit talk. Because as your boy's getting his ass beat, or even if he's winning the fight, you're just trying to keep people from jumping in on top of him because you're weird, and that's a thing people do. However, it's not a thing animals do. You know what I mean? I want to bring that up. That tenet's going to be real hard in terms to follow as I think of instinct, or I think of low humanity, or it's us versus them, and we're predators. This isn't push fights. If someone's going to get that serious, we have to understand what that is. And you're in it to win it. It's to the hilt or it's not. So when we talk about loyalty, that's how I'm going to define it. There is something that keeps us together, and I even have that. I like it. It keeps Manny up and up. I appreciate that one. But that's Brennan's. Brennan thought of that whole. So we gotta at least think of one each, Mike. That's only fair.
One that I like, and it's related to loyalty. You could phrase it as no half measures or finish the job. And by that I mean, like, I don't want to be that coterie that says they're going to do the thing and then accepts less than the whole thing just because the circumstances changed. Right? You get in the muck, you find out it's going to cost you a little bit more than you plan to pay. It doesn't mean you fucking pull the escape rope and hop out, right? We're going to finish what we came here to do, really regardless of the situation. That could be dinner with the prince, right? But related to loyalty, we come in together, we leave together, but also we don't leave till the job is done.
So follow through, commitment.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm going to say romance. I'm going to say we did. I'm going to say that you can't have a solid, all around, down to earth, not even down to earth, not that, but realistic game without having passions and connections and depth of emotion involved in some capacity. So if I'm loyal to this group, it's for reasons, and those reasons are emotion based. And it could be that we grew up together, or I was mentored through. And by the way, that's the act I'm going to go through, and I'll just jump to that because that's the romance one. And why I'm saying is because I want it to be my character was left on the street as is. I could have been killed. I was taken under the sheriff's wing and was looked after to kind of get my feet wet as they're still looking for my sire. I've been in that state for so long that Brennan's already showed me the ropes, and that's what it is. But the problem is I'm somebody whose instincts are very different, and it's very hard to figure it out. So I had to learn what it is I do and don't. And where it was funny to talk with the aspect of being – I don't know why, but I see this guy and why he's that way is because he hasn't turned right. Right? There's a direction he hasn't gone. And there's something we're trying to instill in him. And he's a deputy because the title was given to him because you need to give a reason why I'm not on ice somewhere. And it's probably because I'm real freaking useful in some capacity, or more importantly, something of you is reflected in me and of what I'm trying to do. Mike, you said investigative hedonist. My guy's a teacher. He loves knowledge. He loves the fact of applying thought before deed. However, his instincts jump quite a bit. And he doesn't have, well, he has remorse, but to dwell on guilt is to be stuck in a prison of the mind. And I'm already playing the character, but that's something he believes in, which is very dangerous because logically that makes a lot of sense. But that is where we get into our relationship, right? Hey, I feel for the guy and da-da-da-da. But you're a hedonist who had to learn limitation. How is this different? I'm going to be somebody given into being a white if I don't learn the limitation. Know when to feed and when to stop. Know how to clean it up and how to do it. I'm not saying I'm a chilled. I definitely have my method, but it's unique for me as an experienced player to come up with a feeding method that warranted being taught by somebody. That this is where I'm at now with the handicap that he suffers for what he is. On the flip, for Brennan, it's the forensic half. I like to learn. Brennan likes to talk. How weird would it be that I'm covered in blood? He doesn't know where it came from. He called for backup, and I'm here. But I stepped out of a car, slathered in blood that's dried in the wind as best I could. And he noticed, though, that at least I put down the plastic in the seats before I climbed in, and that helps a little bit. And I bring the bleach and whatever else he asked for as I bring it up on scene, and all he could do is look at me and go, well, at least we got that down. Here, grab his legs.
It's progress.
Right, exactly. It is a unsought mentor thing without having to put it on a sheet. And the romance there is that my guy legitimately is very appreciative. And he believes you guys look out for him, but at the same time, there's a downside. He will not tolerate, he's not the guy to bring in front of the prince to hear, well, Sheriff, you know what happens if you fail again. And I'm a guy, you better grab me. Oh, he knows what happens? I know what happens if, enjoy tonight, your last one. I get drug out, and Brennan's like, he meant your last one tonight here, sir. It's a thing over here. What are you doing?
There's a reason why I'm taking the 3 etiquette for this character.
But that's the relationship style I want,
right.
where he's trusting and he looks up to it from a sense of loyalty. But I am not against, with that being a tenet, sorry, I'm ahead of it. But I'm not against being manipulated or tricked or being used. It's just that's how he sees it.
I can dig romance. So obviously it's a lot deeper than people assume when they hear that word. I'm down for it.
Same.
Passions. Okay. So we have other Chronicle tenants: loyalty, no half measures, aka also finish the job, as well as romance, and at least showing a form of passion from yourselves as the player, as well as towards your coterie, because you're all tied into each other. Does that sound fair?
It sounds like the Sith code is what it sounds like, but yeah, that sounds fair.
I'm just saying because we are on camera, so we know that we made this decision. Y'all made this decisions on yourself.
We did.
So, right. So when that shit bites you in the ass, you start turning tail, because I hope that's not what happens. But then again, that's the fun and joy of playing this game. Y'all said we were going to Poor Bob's gonna be the only one fucking like, who's stopping Bob? I thought you were gonna help him out. My dude out there with a femur, just batting people in the head.
Listen, if we're secretly playing a cabal of Sith, I'm okay with this.
I'm the type of person that would like to think that there was a super intelligent dinosaur that when they saw that comet coming to smack the Earth and they knew there was nothing, absolutely nothing that could be done to stop it, one Velociraptor looked at the other and he said, "Hey, go long," and pretended to catch it. I'm in it to win it to the end, is what I'm saying. That's what that is.
You got it. All right, so I don't think I have anything else. I think we got everything covered. So it'll be definitely a game set in New York, set within a level of turmoil because you folks have now assumed this particular type of position. It'll be set in the modern day. We have our characters in the form of Mike being our sheriff, hedonist investigator, who happens to be a member of the ministry. Bob, who is a history teacher of vengeance, and history, how it's being taught, is going to be very interesting considering he's a member of the Hecata and has a very interesting, albeit unconventional past, so to speak. And then we have our straight man in the form of Brennan, who is playing a forensic cleaner who is of Clan Ventrue and plays the good cop. Quotation marks. Our chronicle tenets are loyalties, once again, no half measure / finished job, and romance in the sense of passion and what you do to connect to each other. Almost bromance, you would say in this case. But I think we have an idea so that when we start our next session, we'll have strong characters to work with.
Word. Only small pedantic thing is coterie types. There's one that's pretty much this, the Watchmen coterie, or do we even want to bother with coterie types?
That is
done.
a good question.
Yeah. If you're already researching that and you said the Watchmen coterie, done.
Yeah. Pretty much what it is.
Sure. I don't remember any of the coterie types in more than very, very broad strokes.
It's the Watchmen coterie, just to preface it, because it's probably other people who see this will have that thought too. The Watchmen coterie, if memory serves, that's the one that looks out in the city. They look at specific domains to protect it and look after it. Yeah,
that's what it. Yes, gives us little small things, and also coterie or Camarilla status of 2. But I'll put that on like a note. There's a nice little coterie sheet that's available on Drive-Thru RPG. I'll just write that up and throw it at y'all.
Delicious. I love all of
good. I am excited.
Yes.
I don't know about all of you, but I am very excited. I'm excited for our audience to also see what type of craziness I cook up, because now you gave me a lot to think about. Let me live out the game that Bob and I shared once that we never got to see the completion, but
yes,
it's to be beautiful.
I'm gonna enjoy it a lot. It's a challenge, and I always love that. I have very much interest in those, so that's a good thing. With that, DJ, do you have anything else you want to add, or are we good?
No, I think we're good. The only thing I would say is off the camera as well, so that people in the audience know, it's always a good thing to also set a limit of when to receive your sheets, right? Because you always want to make sure your people work together to create characters. Gents will work together. Hopefully before the end of next week, we'll have our characters all set up, which gives me enough time to then write plot to integrate everything. Of course, because it is V5, touchstones will be important. And I do love that about it, because we get to showcase every character's own aspect and what they have to deal with personally, on top of the fact of the stuff they have to deal with as being vampires in a coterie.
That's going to be so much
That's
fun.
all I had to add. Bob, you always tell me the hardest ones.
All right, everybody. Thank you. We hope you tune in again and catch up, and whenever you do digest this and enjoy it. And I hope this example serves you to help you and understand it's not a frustrating process, and it can have complications. But if you saw anything here today, do not leave your storyteller to be the one to help adjudicate a fellow peer. And I don't mean they can't step in, but I mean leave them neutral. If you're a peer at the table trying to figure out why someone wants to play something or won't, like for me, heartfelt, I respect Mike to death. I'm taking on a challenge of something new. I just wanted him to play something that's a challenge for him too, because I know he likes that as well, and we'll all work together to make it fun. Brennan Ventrue, I want to see him play this. It's already a challenge.
I've got an idea that's going to add it in here, and we can continue this discussion off camera if it has to be. So, but real quick. There was an old Ventrue prince of New York City, right, that had a very, very specific way of defending her territory, which was effectively mass embracing and throwing those children back at the Sabbat It was okay by the Camarilla higher ups. I would like to propose that I play one of these children. But you might be thinking, well, that would make you older. That would make you higher up. Oh, nay. No, nay. I propose that I was embraced in 1998, the year before she was killed. And I want to take that. I want to take that Loden family merit. That's like the black sheep of the family, or like the baby of the family, where it's like,
Oh, no.
all right, it's like I was embraced and brought out, and it's that like, what is that meme thing where it's like someone runs in and hands him a gun. It's like no time to explain. Get in the car. I'm like, what is happening? And that was my experience in the New York War.
I too see Brennan has chosen hard mode. Okay, we got this. It's going to be fun and interesting. That's
Like
a clown car.
I like it. That also adds further as to why we're together. I mean, in that regard. So, but to finish it out, and with that included, just leave that space for everybody, and don't worry about anything. It's fun. Do it. Have a discussion. Session 0 is to get this stuff out to get you playing.
Mhm.
Thanks, guys, for letting me participate, and DJ for stepping up. That's a very bold move, sir. I tried to stick Mike. Man, I love Mike's Sabbat games. But anyway, that's just neither here nor there. It's for another time later, perhaps. I look forward to it. We'll catch you guys in 2 weeks. Thanks.
All right, see ya.
Bye, folks.
Thank you for listening to our 25 years of Vampire the Masquerade podcast. If you like what you heard and want to support us, please share it with others or leave a review. Thanks again, and we'll see you next time.